It's a silent and devastating epidemic with numbers that are really staggering. It's estimated that 1 in every 6 men has been molested as a child. 1 out of 6.
I was molested by a member of my extended family.
I was molested by a family member.
By my landlord.
By several priests.
It was a neighbor.
It was a doctor.
It was my scoutmaster.
It was an award-winning teacher.
I was molested by my father.
Statistics show that 90% of child molesters target children they know. And the horrific side effects of childhood sexual abuse can last a lifetime.
Those men are at greater risk for many emotional problems, including depression, anxiety, problems in relationships with intimacy, problems with sexual dysfunction, problems with sexual orientation confusion, and increased risk for suicide as well. The shame that they feel is immense, and it really totally blocks their ability to talk about it, and they wind up keeping it a secret.
What about the parents? We had an obligation as storytellers to also try and put in their perspective.
He would take their heads and push them underwater until they started panicking and needed us.
It just said that it was our secret.
My dad came in and told me to take off my clothes and to kneel on the bed.
That bad things would happen to me if I told anybody.
My sister could have protected her kids. That was her job.
It was understood by everybody.
This 43-year-old female has a greater than 1-year history of dysthymic disorder.
She would fly into rages, immense rages.
Kitty had a temper.
Her teeth would be like this, and she would be coming at you like that.
The veins in her neck would pop, and her fists would be and then clenched, where her knuckles would be white from clenching her fists.
She was very exasperated, and she just started hitting him.
Keep clenching your fists. Was she clenching her fists?
Yes.
She'd kind of work up, in her, she'd kind of give me one of these,
He drove with the left hand while he held her hands with the right.
Open a cupboard and start taking coffee cups, coffee saucers, breakfast bowls, these are glass items, and repeatedly throwing them in the sink.
Go look at her, and she'd be just sitting in a room just doing that. And
is it frightening to you today to think about that?
It was, yeah, it was, and I recall that when I talk about it.
As she saw Lyle come in from the guest house and travel back and forth, each time she saw him, the confrontation tended to get to be a little bit more abrasive each time. She got a little worse.
She could get into my face, and sometimes it would start from a brief distance away, but she would move towards me as her anger.
And was it frightening to watch?
Yes, extremely, because especially towards Erik, being as young as he was.
she would confront him.
Pretty much on a regular basis as we went through.
He yelled at me for several occasions that upset me when I think about them.
Do they still upset you today?
Yes.
If he did not respond, did that end her outburst?
No.
What would happen if he did not respond?
She would get more angry.
How does it upset you today?
Because she could be her intensity on her anger or her rage could be very scary.
I was 23.
Was that rage still frightening to you?
Oh, yes, very. I lived in fear of it, to be honest with you.
On axis 1, panic disorder. Axis 2, suspect personality disorder.
She would attack me as a person.
Did he act angry and loud in return?
Rarely.
Did she seem happy about having children?
No.
She told me she wished they would have never been born because they had broken her marriage.
She thought it would be a better arrangement to have Lyle stay with his grandmother and that she and Jose could visit him Friday en route to skiing and then Sunday en route home. And she wanted to know what I thought about that.
And what'd you tell her you thought about that?
I told her I thought it was an awful idea.
It was atypical that a mother would drop the children off and be gone for the entire day.
Usually the mother was not the dominant criticizer.
After a session, if she would be there waiting to pick Erik up, or I would come over to her and begin to tell her how her son did. And I felt she had no interest.
Lyle started getting yelled at by Jose and Kitty, saying he was a sissy and a baby because he had wet his bed, and he started being called. They were calling him names and getting mad at him. That's all I know. I left.
Unless his mother was there, I usually didn't notice him.
Yeah? He was sort of invisible?
Mm-hmm.
Is it typical that both parents are overbearing tennis parents?
No.
She was loud and often raised her voice at him.
What about on days when one or both of the boys didn't feel well?
Didn't matter.
They had to play and be coached even when they were sick?
Yes.
And did you ever hear her talk to them in kind of a soft tone of voice, kind of a caring, comforting kind of voice?
No.
Did you have any pet names for them?
No.
Call them Sweetie or Pumpkin?
No.
She was along the side of the pool, running up and down the side of the pool, asking him or telling him to hurry up, you have to swim faster. Often she had a stopwatch.
Most other mothers, if they had dropped off their children, would be there right away to pick up the kids.
She went shopping, and then when they were paged, that she knew where they were.
Okay, so she got paged. Your children, Mrs. Menendez, your children are at the information booth, they're at security or something like that?
She would be shouting at him to hurry up, you're not swimming fast enough, you're never going to beat Rob Bergman. And Rob was, an excellent swimmer, and Erik was not even in the same age group with him.
You'd be called stupid and type of thing. Were the same terms used for the boys?
Yes.
Thought it was cruel.
Okay. How was it cruel?
Because they had to physically suffer.
To grow up with that amount of pressure is very hard on children. They also their schedule was such that there was no time to go outside and play.
He had gotten out of the pool and was standing with his hands together, clutching his arms to his side, saying he was cold, and Mrs. Menendez saying he had to get back in the pool and swim faster in order to beat Rob.
And did you see any reaction on Erik's part besides appearing to be cold?
He was almost to the point of tears.
Well, Erik didn't like that. Didn't like it at all. He refused to go in. Kitty was fit to be tied because a little girl had gone in and he wouldn't.
Did she talk to you about the damage children can do to a marriage?
Yes, she did.
And did you coach them sometimes before they went to school?
Yes.
And what time would those kinds of lessons begin?
6 a.m., 6:30.
That they were coached immediately after school?
Yes.
Was it within your personal knowledge that they were coached at night?
Yes.
And it was in your personal knowledge that they were coached all day long on each weekend day?
Yes.
So, what free time did they have?
None. We even practiced on Christmas, holidays, every day.
Erik ran away.
Yes, the beginning of the summer in 1983.
Why did you continue to coach them if so much that you didn't approve of was going on?
Because I cared for them.
And you're rather emotional about this even now, are you not?
Yes.
There was one instance when we couldn't find Lyle. And we found Lyle in a shop down the block on an ice cream place, eating an ice cream. Well, the owner figured that parents would come at some point. He had kept the kid there feeding him ice cream. It was quite a bill.
Would she console them, ask how they felt?
No. She told me that children drive a wedge between their man and his wife.
How old was he when he was down the street eating ice cream?
Young. 4 or 5.
Well, I thought it was about all they had.
In what sense? What do you mean by that?
As a friend.
Was there a difference in the way the boys acted when they were away from the home, say visiting relatives?
They seem freer or more carefree or
Did you find her to be an obsessive personality?
Yes.
There was a terrific difference between private and public.
She had that concern since the moment she married. She was paranoid about Jose ever having an affair.
I could never understand her level of professed distress.
Kitty wanted to have a friendship as part of the marriage, and it was very clear to him that a friendship was something different. He was not willing to work at being a friend with her.
Inordinately more distressed than many people I usually see with these diagnoses.
She went through her husband's American Express card receipts from his office. She even flew to New York, and she told me that she stood outside the address of the woman he had the affair with and waited for her to come out onto the street so that she could see her. And then she walked past her so that she could see her up close. And she was constantly thinking about her. Appearances were very important, and a divorce would have demonstrated that that family had failed. She stated that she loved her husband very much, although she was very angry with him, and that why should she divorce? She had no place to go.
Where he's 14.
Yes.
What would happen when he would go take a bath?
After he would be in the bathroom, Kitty would tell me that she had to go help him wash his hair.
Would she go into the bathroom?
Yes.
Did Kitty express concern for the boy's safety?
I don't think so.
Every minute of their day was accounted for, and always intensely.
I snuck down to the basement to see how Erik was doing.
Acute Xanax and alcohol ingestion, depression.
I wouldn't want to know what was wrong.
Why?
Because it might be directed at me.
He had stood up and pushed his plates out of the way, very violently knocking over glasses and condiments, whatever were on the table, and said something to her like, "What did you do to this food?"
In public, she would put on a facade.
Was Lyle allowed to cry in this family?
I would say, in my opinion, no.
Without looking at me, just looking blank into the floor, he just said, "It's all right, I'm used to it."
Like staring at the ceiling, almost asleep with his eyes open.
I tried to hug Erik one time, and she told me that I wasn't supposed to hug him, that he needed to grow up, that he was being too much of a baby.
Did you go to him to help him out?
Kitty stopped me.
Did she go to him to help him out?
No.
In fact, I tried, and Kitty stopped me.
Beyond upset.
Do you remember anything about Erik having a speech problem?
He stuttered.
Huh?
I'll just work here. I'll film you getting on.
It's on.
All right, what a wonderful sight.
What would Kitty do if Erik was stuttering?
I think she would just make fun of him, if I remember correctly.
He looked devastated.
For me, my mom made it seem like it was worse than death to be gay.
I asked to leave because I was miserable there. I wanted to go home and have a normal summer, the rest of what I could have.
Well, did you either see or hear anything that sounded like or looked like affection or love from Kitty to either of the boys?
No, I did not.
How old were you when you heard things like, "I wish you were never born"?
Do you remember ever seeing Kitty intercede with Jose's belittling or berating or making fun of Erik?
No.
Did he still strike you as a happy child?
No.
Did you feel that you were being purposely excluded?
Yes, I did.
As soon as Jose took either one of the boys into their room, the door was locked behind him, and Kitty made it very clear that she did not go down the hallway to listen or go near that door.
What did you say to your mom?
I told her to tell Dad to leave me alone. And he keeps touching me.
Lyle looked like an animal that had been thrown on the side of the road. I mean, he was, his head was down, he was very sad, and he didn't say anything.
Christy was a very pretty model. Is that right?
She was pretty.
And was she nice?
Yeah, she was like an angel.
And did your mom like her?
My mom just despised her. She called her the same names that my dad did. My dad didn't like Christy either. Called her a slut, a bimbo, and a gold digger, and just a country girl she had come in from out of state. She was from the Midwest, and she came here to be a model.
She said that she was taking him places sexually that he was not prepared to go, and that struck me as very odd.
Did your mom do something about the plates that you ate off of?
Well, she thought she was AIDS infected. And,
What was that based on?
that she was a model. So she wouldn't let me eat at the table. So I ate on paper plates in the den. And, she wouldn't, I remember I let Christy go in the kitchen one time when my mom wasn't there, and my brother actually allowed her in the kitchen. I was playing tennis, and my mom found out, and they were furious over the phone, and then she came home, and she boiled all the silverware, everything in the kitchen, told me she'd never be allowed in her house again. And the relationship ended shortly after that.
This would not have been a suitable wife for the family. It would not have been a trophy for the family, and that's what they wanted to see in a daughter-in-law.
You thought your mother could read minds, and you found out later that your mother taped your calls, correct?
I didn't know if she could read minds, but she seemed to have it seemed like magic, and I found out later she was.
Here is a gathering of people. Here is Lyle in the bathtub, one can assume the morning of the birthday party. And here is Erik in bed. Now, Erik is in bed when this naked picture of Lyle is being taken. See, here's the next picture on the roll. Now, are we supposed to believe that 6-year-old Erik, who testified he was not allowed to handle a camera until he was 12 or 13, got out of bed to go take a naked picture of his brother, and then got back into bed so someone could take a picture waking him up?
Would she ask you how she looked?
Yes.
And sometimes when she asked you how she looked, would she be inappropriately attired?
She would be topless. Usually just topless or like an open robe. And sometimes, with her clothes on.
And what ages are you talking about where she would expose herself to you this way?
Overall.
I was about 11.
She help you with your baths?
Yes.
How would she help you with your baths?
She would come in after I'd been in there a while. She would help wash my hair and wash me with a sponge.
How old are you talking about?
Same, 11 to 11 to 13.
And when you say she would wash you with the sponge, would she just wash your back, or?
No. She would wash me everywhere.
She would wash your genitals?
Yes.
Girlfriends that struck you as inappropriate?
I think she said that Lyle was in Princeton at the time, and he had a girlfriend named Jamie, I think, that Kitty did not approve of, and she said that her husband also did not approve of her because she was older, and she said that she was taking him places sexually that he was not prepared to go, and that struck me as very odd.
Why?
Objection to proper opinion.
It's a state.
When you were little, do you remember her being gentle and affectionate with you?
She was never gentle and affectionate with me.
Did she ever act like she loved you?
Not when I was little, and there was just one short period of time when I thought that might be true, but like I said before, I mean, I felt that she hated me, and that's what she told me all the time.
The defense has now argued the following. They've said to resolve this case, jurors had to decide a single critical question. Was Jose Menendez molesting his sons? The problem with saying that that is the critical question in the Menendez trial is that it's wrong. The jury never, in any of the two juries, had to resolve the question of whether the Menendez brothers were sexually molested. In fact, the counsel, Leslie Abrahamson, 30 years before, during these trials, properly framed where sexual abuse comes into play. What she said back then is that we have never said that because you're abused, you're justified in killing your abuser. We didn't argue that, and we never will. Well, 30 years later, apparently, the Menendez counsel is arguing just that. Because what the jury had to figure out is on the night of August 20th, 1989, did the Menendezes conspire to kill both their father and their mother that night? Did they in fact kill them? And what was their state of mind at that time, on the night of August 20th, 1989? Did they engage in these killings willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation, or was it an act of self-defense? They had an actual fear of imminent harm, that both their father and their mother was going to kill them, and they acted in self-defense. The sexual abuse part, as Leslie Abrahamson recognized correctly back then, was not a fourth question for the jury to answer. So now we have a letter filed in May of 2023 that is supposedly a 1988 letter written from Erik Menendez to Andy Cano about this sexual abuse. Never discussed in any of the two trials when Erik Menendez testified or Andy Cano testified. And we believe it's inconceivable, as we've argued in our papers, and defies common sense, that if they had evidence that would show that that sexual abuse had been communicated not just 6 years before the events, but 9 months before the 1989 killings, that it would absolutely have come out during one or both of their testimonies. The key for the trial is basically what happened that night, what was in their head that night. Sexual abuse is abhorrent, and we will prosecute sexual abuse in any form it comes. But sexual abuse in this situation, while it may have been a motivation for Erik and Lyle to do what they did, does not constitute self-defense. And that's why Leslie Abrahamson said back in 1993 that sexual abuse does not justify killing your parents, and that they would never argue that.
Her life ended, and our lives essentially ended, all because of this fateful decision. There had to be a series of decisions she made of not to tell what was happening. What kind of mother lets it happen?